Previously on The Idiot's Odyssey.
And join us next time where we may or may not be listing our favourite films of the year. Welcome to episode 23 of The Idiot's Odyssey. I'm Fergal O'Connor.
And I'm Maura Murphy. And as kind of promised, here's our top 10 of the year.
Well, it's really more two top fives, I guess. But, it's kind of a top 10. Close, I don't know.
Kind of a top 11. I don't know. It's close enough, I know.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Starting us off, I have my number 5 as The Walk, starring Justin Gordon-Levitt and a bunch of people who are French and, let's face it, you don't really know the actors. And it's basically the story of Philippe Petit, who was basically the French guy who did the high wire walk between the two Twin Towers just around their time of their construction.
Oui.
Thanks, Fergal. I really liked this film because it was, it kind of, you felt the guy's passion through it. And you have not seen this film, have you, Fergal?
No.
No? Okay. But, it's a quirky film, but it's the way it's done is that at the start it's basically kind of his life story, and without being sentimental, kind of, well, I suppose being sentimental, but not boring.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, once he sees what he wants, that he wants to do this high wire walk across the two towers, it basically, once they get over to America, it starts basically becoming a heist film without the stealing of stuff.
Yeah.
All that excitement without that, and it's, even though I kind of knew what happened in it, because I think a guy falling off the Twin Tower, falling off the wire while trying it would have made headlines a lot more than a guy doing it,
Yeah, well, to be fair, that's acrobatic suicide, really.
Yes. So it was, even though I knew what happened, it was still fascinating, and it kind of follows on from the documentaries that were made about the same incident.
Yeah, I think Man on Wire was the big one.
That was the big one, yeah. And this was of course directed by Robert Zemeckis of Back to the Future and Castaway, etc.
Yep, he's been a busy boy.
And also, Justin Gordon-Levitt was actually trained by Philippe Petit.
Yeah, to be fair, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, it feels like he's really been throwing himself into his roles recently. Yeah. And I haven't seen this, but I hear he goes full on into the French accent.
Well, it's considered a bit of a weird French accent, but apparently your man has a weird French accent himself, so, you're imitating him, not French people in general, so,
Yeah, it makes sense.
Even if it's a weird French accent, it's your man's weird French accent, so it's fine. I didn't find it that weird. Also, the framing device was kind of cool as well, the way they did it. Because it was basically Justin Gordon-Levitt speaking to the camera in person, in the person,
Yeah, so it broke the fourth wall from the start?
Yeah. And I kind of like that. And it is kind of done as almost a tribute to the victims of 9/11.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, given the subject matter, it's...
Oh, yeah, of course, that's the thing. And, many people consider that moment in time to be when the Twin Towers went from being this ugly giant filing cabinet buildings to actually having some kind of a heart or a soul, whatever.
Exactly, yeah, because, they were working from extraordinary raw material, I think. The idea of Philippe Petit, just walking between two of the world's tallest buildings on a telephone wire, in effect.
Yeah.
That's there's great potential for
it goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, it's like there's so much potential to be squandered there. I haven't seen the film, but it sounds like they didn't, and I'm very glad of that.
Admittedly, it can stretch a bit at times, but I still thought I was still blown away. And also, I didn't see this in IMAX in 3D, but apparently, yeah, it was one to remember because people were experiencing vertigo in that crack, so they did it very well.
Yeah, apparently a lot of the reviewers were upset with that. Which
well, yeah, I'd be upset too if I was throwing up because of the vertigo.
Yeah, but I take it that it wasn't. It was just IMAX. It wasn't in 3D.
I think it was IMAX and 3D. I'm not sure actually.
Don't know. Either way, it's pretty impressive to make people throw up and feel vertigo inside in the cinema.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really liked it. And So that's your next one. Your one next, Fergal.
And I'm going to start with my number 6 now, and I'm not going to explain what the hell is going on, but it will all become clear later.
Very clear.
So clear. Number 6 is Spotlight.
Ah, yes.
The film with Rachel McAdams and Mark Ruffalo and Stanley Tucci. They were working with some pretty damn good raw material, which is about priests molesting kids, which is
that conspiracy thing,
it's some of the most trite, rough, ugly material that you can approach the cinematic way. But to their credit, they managed to craft a film around it that it touched on that in a very in a gentle way. But
it's basically the 21st century version of All the President's Men.
In a way, yeah, but I feel like it was there was a much more cruel, visceral crime at the centre of that. Yes. But again, they pulled back to the institutional corruption.
Well, whereas that was more of a political conspiracy. This is more of a institutionalized kind of perversion.
Yeah, I really like that they step back from the small crimes to focus on the big crime. The fact that enabling these monster molesting priests was an act of even greater evil than what was being perpetrated on the ground, which was full on Adolf Hitler level shit.
Yeah, it was pretty cruel.
Yeah, so. Okay, it just so the tone of the film, the way it was approached, was great. I mean,
spot on, like
the way they approached it was through the newsroom. So they took the Spotlight team of a Boston newspaper who spend a long amount of time investigating.
There are specific long-term investigators, like
exactly, and their struggle to out this and. Explored the culture of silence, not just among the clergy, but amongst the people of the city. Because there was constantly this idea that outing these people would prevent more good being done by the church.
I feel that's more of a not just a Boston thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But cinema is constantly a case of using the micro to explore a macro problem. But, I mean, the performances are rock solid. Now, I'm going to complain here.
There's actually something, before you say that, because I think I know what you're saying, is that, Bobby, anyway, Robbie, I should say, the character the person that Michael Keaton is portraying.
Yep.
He has actually been known to say that Michael Keaton's portrayal of him was perfect, it was scary,
Yeah, but to be fair, like, if Brad Pitt was portraying me on screen, I'd be like, he really nailed my handsomeness,
Yes.
So there is that. The one thing I feel like was the acting style, I'm not sure was entirely in sync with everything else.
Yeah, you mentioned this to me before, and
it felt like I was watching a film with subtitles for the emotionally deaf at times. Where the body language was very overdone. It felt like watching a play, because where everything
that might sound like you're dissing plays.
I'm not dissing plays. It's just in a play you have to make your motions kind of big and expressive, so everyone, even in the cheap seats, can see what you're doing and see the emotions you're expressing. You have to exaggerate. And it felt like I was watching a play from about 2 feet away when there was absolutely no need for that. I feel like the performances, there was loads of talent there. Everything was very nicely built, but it was a bit much at times. That being said, Stanley Tucci continues to be wonderful.
It's amazing that he kind of loses himself in the role because, well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't until the end that I was like, oh crap, that was Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, I mean, getting that out of the way. This thing, like detention, you could cut a knife.
It kind of just builds and builds, like
you could cut it with a knife. Yeah,
the conspiracy kind of builds and builds. It's a deeper and deeper hole that they're digging.
Exactly. I mean, like it's great on every level, and I guess even the acting choices could be seen as defensible. And maybe I'm the one in the wrong here. Who knows? Moving on.
And my number 4 is The Martian, a return to form by Ridley Scott, and another fine performance by Matt Damon. It's based on the the book by Andy Weir, in which basically an astronaut gets stranded on Mars. Like, this is a film that it's clearly a drama at the very least, right? Mm-hmm. And yet it was kind of like I think we said at one stage, "Oh, is this a comedy?" I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that they just decided to categorize it as a comedy to give better chances for awards, I suppose, right?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it adds an energy to it.
I did actually really enjoy this film. I found in every way, like, I mean, tension wise, but also it was quite funny, despite the fact that he's in this really awkward horrible situation. He still managed to pull out some hilarious stuff.
Yeah, the sense of humor was pretty important to the whole enterprise.
And Matt Damon, of course, has actually been nominated for an Oscar for this performance. Obviously, it nailed a lot of things, right? And it showed that Ridley Scott, despite the Prometheus kind of what and the continuous kind of stories of what with the constant news of the Prometheus sequel, it still shows that he can make a very good film actually.
Yeah, it's like he can make a film and it's kind of the opposite of Prometheus in a way, because this is a film about space that, like, they did a lot of their research and they tried to ground everything in as much reality as they could for something so outlandish.
It's incredibly grounded, but in such a way that, could you technically call it science fiction? Because there's not really that much there's not, in terms of scientific accuracy, the only thing I think might have been like the winds that stranded him there.
Yeah, I've heard about that. But I feel like it's science fiction, but it's very close to the bone science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, this is...
The bone in this case being scientific reality.
Yeah. And so, credit to them there, and they still managed to make this a highly entertaining film, and a beautiful film as well. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing that I don't think they did nail, and like, the cast is fantastic as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just Matt Damon, but all of them, like.
Yeah, I think The Martian, like, what impressed me most about it was that in a way it's a containment thriller. One of those one-person containment thrillers that's Lock or Buried. And I feel like that's where the sense of humour came from, because you need something you have one person on the planet.
To a degree, he might be cracking up because of the cabin fever.
That too. But also, it's just important that person be intensely watchable. And we love watching people who make us laugh.
You have to like this guy. I mean, because from every kind of level that if you don't like this guy, if you're just like, oh, he's some class of a jackass, then you're going to be like, fine, completely fine with him not making it true, and so you're not rooting for him. But you are rooting for him because, again, Matt Damon is a likeable guy and he brings it true in the character.
Yeah, he's completely the opposite of that creep he played in Interstellar.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that dude, I wouldn't trust with my wallet or my spaceship or anything.
And so, yeah, absolutely, and that's why it's my number 4.
And that brings us to my number 5, the financial comedy drama, I guess, The Big Short.
Dramedy.
Yeah. Or Coma.
Yeah.
Either or, regardless of where it falls in terms of genre.
This film certainly didn't leave me in a coma. It was very riveting, I think,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like it, in a strange way, for all the documentaries that come out and all the films that purport to be educational that come out, this might be the most important educational film that comes out this year, because it works both as an entertainment and as an education into just what went wrong in 2007, 2008.
Oh boy.
Which, I mean, it takes...
it's kind of a good thing that the Academy is slowly recovering, because people can now look back at this and be like, right, let's look at this realistically, like.
Yeah, I feel
As in, if you did this like right after the repercussions, people would be like, not right now.
No, I feel like people would be very happy seeing that right now. It's just that it took someone like McKay to bring with a lot of Hollywood power to bring out this sort of film.
Well, I meant more like fresh wounds, like. Kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I think fresh wounds are the best time. I mean, that's why Hollywood makes biographies about people who aren't fucking dead yet.
That is true.
But regardless, this, in case you haven't heard about it, it's the case of the people who saw the 2008 financial collapse coming, and they decided to use things called to use shorting to bet against the housing market.
Yeah, they basically bet against it. Yeah, I mean that's it. Like, and like the thing is, the film explains itself a lot better than we can.
Yeah, I can explain this pretty fucking well if you give me 10 minutes on a whiteboard. But
yes, well, visual cues are not going to be attached to this.
Just you wait, everyone. Regardless of that, it works as an entertainment because they take a classic story, that of the guy who is screaming in the face of the establishment that something is wrong while everyone is ignoring him, in this case because of their greed.
Yes.
Which, I mean, everyone loves fucking plucky underdog stories like that. It's just, in this case, I can actually get behind the underdog because they saw it coming. Even if their reaction was to, make out like fucking bandits.
That is kind of the thing. It's just like, they're not kind of going around like trying to save the economy. They're basically like, right, we can definitely make money off this.
Well,
to an extent, like.
In a way, I mean...
admittedly, Steve Carell's character is very concerned about the state of, like, and you can kind of see at moments where he's being explained what happened. It's just like more of a face of anger with the veins throbbing and all this.
Well, if you look, Christian Bale's character, Michael Burry, he's very straight up about the idea he thinks the housing market will fail. He doesn't hide that from anyone. He's not being furtive about it. He just bets. He just bets on it because he's a straight up dude who sees the way things are heading.
When you say straight up dude, it's he's just a weird character. Like, I mean, obviously he's.
I don't regard him as weird. He's not exactly neurotypical, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I mean
that's the thing, like,
you do. Maybe you need to be a bit neurotypical to see something like this coming.
He's basically one of these eccentric geniuses kind of job.
Yeah, he's definitely a genius.
By the way, another. This is 2 consecutive films now that we've mentioned that one of the actors was nominated for an acting Oscar. In this case, Christian Bale has been nominated for Best Supporting.
Yeah, which I'm totally on board with.
I mean, fantastic. He was just fantastic in it.
Yeah, Carell was great as well. In terms of I really liked the way they built that character because at the start he is a fucking asshole. Let's get this out of the way. My first thought when I saw him and the way that they were portraying him was, this guy's a fucking dick. But he is a dick because he is so angry at the ignorance and the greed of everything he is seeing around him. And he spends the whole film screaming in the faces of the establishment, it's all coming down, man. Yeah. And nobody cares. And it's not that they don't know. It's that...
Is that they believe the system to almost be infallible?
It's not even that.
And then it's just greed,
It's just that the system is made up of people who are each going to profit off of this, even if the whole thing comes down and destroys everyone else. I mean, in terms of the mortgage...
the corporate greed, like, kind of job.
Yeah, the mortgage brokers on the bottom, up to the traders on the top, who are working with mortgage-backed securities. They all have money to make off this.
And of course, another guy who we were introduced to right at the start, as in he did the introduction, was actually Ryan Gosling's character, who was just another one of these fuckers who was trying to make the money.
Yeah, he was the apex of the greedy banker, the voice of the inside man.
I think he was just so charming and like insane that he kind of got away with it.
Yeah,
insane as in like just greed pouring out his nose kind of job.
Yeah, I don't feel like the character is even particularly charming. He just has this feeling that he is so invincible that he can say whatever he wants and he doesn't care. I think
he's kind of so greasy that he kind of slips right through the nets.
Yeah, it's like he can afford to be confident around this because he knows that nobody will punish him.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but beyond the fantastic acting, I mean, the roster is, again, incredible here. The comedy is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the
frequent fourth wall breaks just to explain what's going on. And I mean, they take a pretty shallow view of what actually happened, but it's still much deeper than the average person's view, and they give people a great idea of just what happened.
Keep in mind,
I mean, we knew that. We knew that something had gone wrong back in 2008, but I feel like a lot of the population didn't understand exactly what the banks had done, and this breaks it down very cleanly and clearly.
So it's educational and funny and all that. So it's basically like, yeah, why not? Like,
yeah, it's a triple threat: comedy, drama, and educational, almost semi-documentary. It's fantastic. It works out from all the angles it attacks from. Cracking film, and I'm totally on board with this. Making my top 5.
And what did you think of the whole celebrity cameos? Because did you not feel that sometimes it just took you out of it completely?
Well, no, I feel like that was kind of the idea of bringing in the celebrity-obsessed culture. As a way, in a way, it feels like a condemnation, or not necessarily a condemnation. It's just
an observation.
Not even that. It's just this idea that people would prefer to watch the fucking Kardashians than to understand what went on during the collapse. And in a way, it's McKay saying, "Here's your fucking celebrity. Now shut up and listen to how you got screwed."
By the celebrities?
Not by the celebrities, by the banks.
As in,
even
explained by the celebrities.
Yeah, even if it takes Margot Robbie in a hot tub to make you listen. I listened.
And my number 3 pick is probably the best science fiction film that Jason Isaac and Donald Gleeson have been in this year. That's right, Ex Machina. This was more of a containment thriller than anything else, I suppose, to borrow your phrasing. But it was just a fascinating film to watch. And of course, Alicia Vikander was also in this, and she was phenomenal as well.
Yeah, I mean, Alicia Vikander, her star has been quietly rising.
It's just been a brilliant year for her, because she's been in this and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and The Danish Girl, and she was probably the best thing in all 3 films, disputably, you know.
Sweet.
And I think she was in a bunch of more things, actually, if I remember correctly. And this was just, about basically, like, we actually reviewed this already, on, we gave it an 8 out of 10 each then, and I don't see that changing.
Yeah, I think it's the film that's improved the most for me the more I thought about it.
Yeah. The thing is, it stuck with me, and that's the thing, Yeah,
like, it's a very, it's got a lot going on under the hood.
Yeah.
In terms of the way the plot...
There's so many questions, as in, like, there's moral dilemmas and mortality and all this kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, in a way, I don't feel like there are any particular moral dilemmas by the end.
No. Well, no.
Yeah, it's like someone was very clearly right about all of this.
And it's very, like, well done, and it keeps you thinking, and it even kind of, like, in its trailers, it kind of pops up, like, fake kind of spoilers to itself, Yeah. It kind of teases stuff, and then, like, no, that's not the case, and, it's remarkably well done, and remarkably kind of, like, despite the fact that there's only these 3, like, speaking characters, if you will, right? Now, I think there's another assistant and the helicopter pilot, but they don't really have any lines,
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant chemistry between the 3 characters, and it's one of those that just stayed with me. And I mean, it was another fascinating film to observe, and
Yeah, as it should. And I feel like it's the film that kind of best approached this idea of young men dropping out of society and kind of, let's call a spade a spade. Dudes getting addicted to porn and dropping out of society. And just playing video games all day,
right?
And it approached that in that kind of, maybe it was a very obvious way, in that this dude isolates himself from society miles away, and like it's a very kind of obvious element of the staging in a way that's the way they're approaching this thing. But then
so obvious I didn't notice it at all.
But they definitely kind of go deep on the possible effects of this. And just this idea of what is
life?
Not even that. What's the point? What's the point of fake emotional feedback, man? It's like it explores this idea that we're taking the impulses that are supposed to keep us alive and fucking, and survive and replicate, if you want to use a scientific term. And we're indulging them in the most harmful way possible. And I feel like, in a way, that the film's morality definitely imposes itself very heavily towards the end, in terms of someone should be punished for this. The enablers of this thing should be punished for this. The the people participating should
I feel like you've just gone off on a rant about society, to be honest,
yeah,
Fergal.
the film went off.
You may have gone mad.
No, the film went off on a
rant.
rant.
I can see what you mean, and I can definitely
somewhat
agree. I can see your point in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% on board with the film's moral viewpoint. I'm just saying that it was very well expressed while still being
entertaining.
A tight as shit thriller.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, really, because for all, like, the ad made it seem like this really super sci-fi film, but a lot of that just drops away, and it's just this taut character study with these fucking massive questions hanging over it during it. It's tension that you could cut with a knife yet again.
It's a tight script as well. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, obviously we're in agreement anyway. It was class.
Yeah.
And speaking of a film that got better and stuck with me the more I thought about it, another film that kind of bothered the crap out of me the more I thought about it, and when I eventually did rewatch it, was Avengers Age of Ultron. So, if you're wondering why I gave it a 9 in an earlier episode and now I'm not including it, is because I knocked it down to a 7, because a lot of stuff started bothering me.
Yeah, Avengers Age of Ultron, it's a lot like it. If you remember, there was this English cat food company that did these ads that cats loved. That just had all this shiny shit. Avengers Age of Ultron had lots of shiny shit and not very much substance.
It's just the little things started annoying me when I rewatched it, and I was like,
Yeah, it's it ain't great.
I still really enjoyed it, but again, in retrospect.
Yeah, let's break down what's wrong with it for a minute.
Okay.
It tries to tie everything in the film into every other film.
Here's the problem, right?
To the detriment of the film as a piece of cinema on its own.
Here's the thing, right? It's basically, we'll say at the halfway point of the whole run or going, right? And they have to tie in all the stuff that's happened before in the previous Avengers film and this and what's happened since the last Avengers film and a little bit of S.H.I.E.L.D. thrown in here. And they also have to kind of tie in the third Thor film and the next Avengers film and all of this, and that's kind of one level of it. And then there's a bunch of things of, like, Captain America and the whole cursing thing, right? And that's kind of like weird. It feels a bit out of place. And feels like, I know we originally said, it was one that was thrown up and then come back down or whatever. And that's all fine and well, but it just started irritating me, And also the whole thing of, like, how many people need to be wisecracking with the Avengers team? Not all of them. Pretty much Tony Stark can get away with it. And out of the current Avengers team, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, at the end it felt like a case of too many cooks spoil the script.
Yeah.
Because this thing, it was a mesh of elements that I think, like, any of the elements on its own could have been fine as part of a focused film, but this was an unfocused mess.
I just feel like that the characters, like, all started talking similar to each other, which is weird.
Yeah, I'm fine with a Joss Whedon film, but it needs to be entirely a Joss Whedon film.
The thing is, Joss Whedon,
and this was not.
I think Joss Whedon got sick of it for the same reasons that pretty much everyone else got sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I feel like Joss Whedon took his ball and went home.
So that's the end of that little aside.
Yeah,
and getting back to it.
Yep, that's our interval. Fuck the Avengers. Thank you. And back to good films, and we are moving on to my number 4. It's me, Sicario. Most directors don't have one good film in them. Denis Villeneuve is 3 for 3 in just phenomenal top-flight films.
Yeah, this is really good. Like, I particularly enjoy this. I mean, I would have included this, but I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, first off, this is the story of an FBI agent who gets dragged in.
I thought she was CIA. No,
right,
sorry,
she was very much not CIA.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole kind of thing.
The CIA are kind of the dirtbags of this film in a way. But she's Emily Blunt portrays an FBI agent who gets dragged into the murky world of cross-border Mexican espionage, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Benicio del Toro as a sort of a silent hired gun, in effect.
Well,
he's a lot like a Clint Eastwood character.
He's supposed to be more of a counselor or a consultant, I should say, for the whole operation, because he's Mexican, or not Mexican. He's not from fucking America, and he's basically,
But they never portray him as a counselor. They portray him as the guy who can do things that nobody else can do.
But he has like a counselor. Counselor is a bad word, but
consultant.
I said consultant. Yeah,
I think you did.
Counselor,
yeah.
consultant.
But I feel like that was the excuse they were using. But the fact is,
that was his official term, we'll say.
Yeah, but he is a pair of gloves that you put on when you don't want to get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course,
Josh
Brolin.
Josh Brolin, I thought, was also awesome. But I think, getting back to, Benicio del Toro, in that he was excellent in this film. And, he had some of the... Every line, I think, he said was just brilliant,
Yeah, tight as shit. Actually, moving on to Josh Brolin, I think he deserves special mention as well. Just because he goes full on into the greaseball sort of... He's never fully they never come out and say he's a CIA agent, but he's a fucking CIA agent.
Yeah, I mean, he's hired by the CIA kind of thing.
Yeah, he's
another character in this, in what we've spoken about so far, that is so greasy that he could slip through anything,
Yeah, they constantly use this word consultant as a euphemism for dirtbag who is going to do some shit we can't officially be involved
kind of thing,
with.
Yeah.
It's a film about moral choices. I feel, which has been a really big deal in the first three films I brought up.
This is probably one of the most high profile films about the drug war, which is of course a massive kind of issue in Mexico.
And I feel
it takes lives constantly,
But as we go further up my list, I feel like we're getting into films that have the dirtier and dirtier morality, because
dirty boy.
Aye, but we have Spotlight, where eventually good does triumph against this thing, and then we have The Big Short, where loads of people, where an entire country gets fucked by the financial system. But
entire country, I think, it was most of the world, man.
Yeah, and just the protagonists make out like bandits amongst this sky is falling scenario. And then we move to Sicario, where wherever you try to do good, you are just powerless in the face of all the evil that is being perpetrated.
It is a very murky and kind of red paper kind of job, red tape kind of job. But it's...
Well, I feel like it's the opposite of red tape in a way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of like trying to get around the red tape kind of thing.
Yeah, it's less red tape and more scissors.
It's murky and it's just... But it's dark and it's
filthy.
But it's also quite... This is something that is kind of comes back to a thing that we've said about earlier, about the same director and the same cinematographer for Sicario will also be the same combination for Blade Runner 2. Yeah, so it gives you a lot of hope, because it was remarkably well shot.
That's the visual beauty of this film is something else. I mean, Villeneuve, he's delivered some of the more arresting images of the past few years. I think the final image of Enemy being a particular standout. But
talk to me, man. It's just so much what the fuck.
Yeah, it's perfect. You get to watch two films when you watch Enemy, but this is like there are some films that are just the only way I can describe them is they're like motion paintings. The composition is gorgeous, and they're telling they're a perfect visual metaphor for what is going on at the time. All this without it doesn't cripple the film artistically either, or in terms of drama, because as well it's at times it is Catherine Bigelow levels of military thriller.
But what I do love is that there was a great sense of scale and awareness of like what was going on in this film.
Yeah,
the scale was very kind of perfect for it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You felt the danger and the tension,
Yeah, again, like, you could cut it with a fucking knife or shoot it with a silenced pistol in this case. Greasy, disgusting, and I couldn't have felt better walking out of the cinema. Villeneuve has done it again, and that is my number 4.
And that gives me a lot of hope for Blade Runner 2, I have to say.
Yeah.
And moving on from the darkness and the grittiness of Fergal's last pick, we go on to my number 2, and that's, well, pretty much the exact opposite, because it's Inside Out. Pixar's latest
masterpiece?
Animation masterpiece, and it's just fantastic. It's a basically feeling about emotions inside this little girl, and it's just very well done, you know?
Yeah, I feel, again, Pixar have done what they do best here, in that they've made a film that the adults can see it and kids can see it, and each of them will see a story that is on their level and relatable.
And the thing is, it's a film about emotions and all of that, and it hits you right there in the emotions, in the feels.
Yeah, fucking hell, poor Bing Bong, man.
Yeah. Oh, Bing Bong.
Oh, Bing Bong.
And, you know, it's just, again, it's more brilliance, you know, and it's visually very nice to look at, and it's just, you know, it's mature, and at the same time, you know, like you said, it works both for all age groups, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, Pixar, this one feels, and Pixar they've tackled some material that it constantly feels like they're pushing the envelope. This feels like the furthest they have pushed it. They're tackling some rough material, and they go to some places that there are multiple ways to scare children, and they go to a place that is very scary to children in the most realistic way possible to them.
And it's just really well done, and it's a nice, because they haven't really tackled that kind of stuff before, and they haven't tackled like the idea of puberty before, and they kind of tackle all of that in this film.
Yeah, as well as the
so it's a lot more depth than just a regular like silly cartoon or something, you know.
Yeah, as Pixar tend to do. I feel this time they've done it best.
It would be easy for them to phone it in, but they don't, and they try, and you got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole story is this idea of learning to cope with your emotions in a healthy way.
And it gets more complicated and all that kind of crap.
Yeah, I feel it's something else. It's about learning to to
deal with your emotions, like
it's about learning to take the good
safely?
with the bad.
Yeah,
learning to deal with each and to deal with them in a healthy way.
I mean, it's still, and the thing is, right, and we get, and yeah, there's all this message and this level and all this, but it's still fucking hilarious at times.
Yeah, great. It's
absolutely fantastic stuff. Like,
yeah, I still want to know what that swear word was.
What?
That swear word
that I just said there?
No, that one swear word that Anger knew.
Oh,
yeah.
Hang on, I'll tell you here. And yeah, so that's why it's my number 2, and I just thought it was spot on, if you will.
Now, my number 3, and this will explain the oddness of number system up to now, is actually Owen's number 1. So we'll be talking about that later.
We'll be getting that real soon.
But my number 2 is Italian mind-bending horror.
It's technically considered a horror, but there's a lot of elements to it, like.
Yeah, there's a lot of ingredients in that pie. It's spring. It's brilliant.
It's this weird one in that I hadn't heard of it at all until Fergal mentioned it, and I don't know how the fuck Fergal found it.
Yeah, I don't know how the fuck I found it either, man. I'm just very glad I did. Spring is the story of a guy who gets in trouble in his hometown because post-funeral he gets in a fight with gangsters.
I think it's America, isn't it?
Yes, he is American. So he does the natural thing that we'd all do and decides to fly out of the country.
And he goes to Italy.
Yeah. It takes a trip down the coast. At this point, it feels like a very standard young American finding himself kind of thing. But as it goes along, he ends up going down the coast with a couple of British guys to a tiny town where he meets a beautiful Italian woman with a dark secret.
Yeah. And
holy fuck, we're not pushing the dark secret thing here. She's
a fine looking bird.
Yeah, I don't quite know how to describe this without giving it away. I feel like a lot of the appeal of Spring is in the journey and the discovery, and that makes me hesitant to talk about it. I feel like it...
Yeah, I'm really glad you didn't tell me what happened, because when I did see it, it was like, whoa.
Yes. I feel every beat in the film is absolutely perfect. It synergizes so many different genres, and it manages to hit beats from each in a way that somehow adds up to a story that's satisfying on every level. I came into this film thinking it was a horror, and that's probably I'm just going to say, approach it like that. It's a horror, that's all you need to know.
There are other elements in it, but yeah, it's mostly that, or I wouldn't say mostly, but there's definitely that overarching feel. It's also, I think, it's another one of these films that was shot. It was shot on location, I think, in Italy, and there's some extreme close-ups, and they're very well detailed. And there's also some
scenery.
and there's also some obviously gorgeous scenery. They used their environment, and And I think one of the things, right, is that after I watched this, I found it very impressed, and I thought that they had this concept that they wanted to do, and they executed it pretty much perfectly, you know?
Yeah, it's Spring. The reason it ended up so high on my list is because I have never seen anything quite like it. I've never seen a story built quite like it. It takes tropes of genres and turns them on their head. It's very genre aware, and yet its own thing entirely. Very special film. I highly recommend it.
And despite that, it's also like got this. Look, this isn't really a spoiler because we basically said it. But there is a kind of a romantic kind of romance going on in the film, right?
Absolutely.
But it's also a very realistic romance, I would think. You know?
Well, I don't know about realistic.
Well, I mean, outside of the obvious thing that we can't talk about.
Yeah, no.
I mean, the people are behaving as normal people, not as Hollywood exaggerations, if you will.
There's a tiny bit of Hollywood exaggeration to it.
That's always going to be the case.
Yeah, it's
but not to this kind of degree of that would hurt it.
It felt like it hit a nice degree where it genuinely felt like people connected.
Yes, this is how real people speak.
Yeah. Spring has a lot going on for it. Just go watch it. Don't look it up. Don't try to figure out what it is. Spring is Spring.
Yeah, so definitely. And that leads me nicely on to my number one of the film of the year. And this was a film that I gave 10 out of 10 at the time, and I still give it 10, even upon multiple rewatchings. Because it is a film that can be multiply rewatched. Whatever. And that's Mad Max Fury Road. It was just phenomenal. I mean, it was just action, and it was brilliant, you know?
Yeah, it's as Spring was hard to define, Mad Max is very easy to define.
It's an action
but
film.
It does what it does perfectly.
I mean, it's just a beautiful looking film, and it's just phenomenally done, and it's just, the pace is fantastic, and of course, it's one of those that it's just like, when it first came out, it was like, people were like, whoa, and it's still like that, and George Miller has actually been nominated for Best Director, and so...
Thank Christ.
Which is an odd one for an action film, but it is that damn good.
Yeah, it turned out all you need to do to get nominated for Best Director is nearly murder Tom Hardy.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because the way this was shot, there is the minimal amount of CGI in there. Everything was done with in camera with amazing stunt rigs, so you're the action is constantly in your face.
I mean, pretty much the only thing they were doing it for was like stuff in the distance, wires, and Charlize Theron's arm.
Yeah,
and yeah, so it's just really well done. Like, I mean, it's a simple plot, but it's executed so well.
And speaking of Charlize Theron, she's it might be named after Mad Max, but she really is the lead of this. This is her story.
Yeah, it is, and
she carries it very well.
She really is the lead, and she really does. Yeah, you're right. She takes charge, and it's fantastically done.
Yeah, authoritative. She's authoritative. In a way, I feel like she. I almost want to say Clint Eastwood again. in terms of that no nonsense attitude she displays.
Keep in mind, in a film that's this high paced, or that high paced, I should say, and has relatively little dialogue, it's impressive if you're able to get a clear image or clear kind of characterization of a person across.
Yeah,
and they do.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Mad Max, I almost want to categorize it as the world's first cocaine film. Because I feel like you would almost need to be on some sort of stimulant to take in everything that is going on the screen. You're constantly being bombarded. I mean, if you get a chance to see this, see it on the biggest screen you can, with the loudest speakers you can, with as much caffeine and sugar in your system as is humanly possible.
And speaking of sound, actually, like, it's actually got a really good sound as well to it. You know, and
yeah.
I suppose it just wouldn't be the Idiot's Odyssey if I didn't point out a little interesting fact that George Miller actually asked his, I think, wife to do the editing, and she asked him why, and he said because if a man did it, it would be like every other action film.
Yeah. So well done to George Miller's wife.
Exactly.
And moving from one of the most stimulating, high-paced, in-your-face films of the year to something that is much quieter but every bit as gripping. My number one for the year is Room.
Yeah, this was a brilliant film. I mean, the emotions again were a big kind of focus on this, or at least center to it, you know.
Yeah,
and you definitely, because it is a 2-act kind of a feel to it.
Yep.
And it's brilliantly emotional and just spot on.
Yeah, they make this emotionally very complex story. I feel like Brie Larson owns this.
Yeah.
I mean, her character, it's tough to portray what she does, because for those not in the know,
perhaps you should tell people what the hell the film is about. Like,
Room is based on the Joseph Fritzl story.
Roughly, like, I mean, it's a novel based on a novel that, let's face it, got a lot of inspiration from the Joseph Fritzl stuff.
Yeah, it was the idea of a girl who was kidnapped and made to live in a garden shed for 7 years, raising the rape baby of the guy who kidnapped her. Spade a spade, which is an incredibly emotionally conflicting situation to be in.
Definitely.
And they explore it. They explore every aspect of it so well.
I mean, keep in mind the child, who by the way does a great performance and is not an annoying child actor at all.
Yeah, that's one of the film's greatest achievements.
And that this kid believes that the entire world is actually just this room, and so it's very well, you know, because this kind of tension and like claustrophobia is very much there, and it's remarkably well shot as well, because the room is big when the room is not, the size of the room is not the focus, but when the size of the room is the focus, it is small. It's small.
Yeah,
you know?
They definitely find every angle possible within that room, and all the right angles as well to explore the beat that are going for its time. I feel as well it's very emotionally polarized. In terms of it is heartbreaking and heartwarming. To a massive degree, where it explores the darkness and the light of humanity.
Yeah, it's one extreme to the next, basically. Like.
Yeah, the zenith of human experience and the dark depths of human cruelty. It's the fact is that by going, it goes all the way down. I mean, Brie Larson, she goes full on exploring how a character who goes through so much could be portrayed as almost selfish.
Yeah,
in
it's
ways.
weird. It's a strange one.
That just her character is not just portrayed as a victim. There's this idea as well that maybe there are things she could have handled better. She becomes human, not some idea of the victim, and that lends more to the emotional complexity of the story, and that makes it more compelling. It's one you can chew over constantly. in terms of we're going there again. Yeah, the morality of the thing.
Yeah, apparently this is the theme for 2015.
Yeah, it explores this idea that we can be weak. We're not perfect, and even within our weakness and the greed of our human, the biology of the brain, there is still potential for great kindness and great wonder. And the fact that the film just inspired me to bring out words that kind of cheesy or whatever. That sums up the film for me. It made me think about and turn over the characters of the film constantly, and it's just the very definition of character driven.
Yeah, it's definitely character driven. I'll give you that. And the emotions are very much at the surface for most of the film, and yeah, I thought it was fantastic as well.
Yeah,
just maybe it missed out, but not by much.
Yeah, give Brie Larson the Oscar, because that performance nothing is held back.
Also directed by an Irish director, so we'll have to say that.
Yeah, Lenny Abrahamson, who this is the best work he's done, and he's been doing fantastic work.
Yeah, really nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, Brie Larson, the Academy can make up for snubbing her for Short Term 12 by giving her the Oscar that she richly deserves for this. Stunning piece of work. It's pretty much head and shoulders above the pack this year. Yeah. Well deserved number one. Go see it. You won't be disappointed.
Definitely recommended it.
Film that'll make you laugh. Film that'll make you cry. Film that'll make you think. Every level, man. Had it on every level.
And I hope you enjoyed our top 10 films of the year. I've been Owen Murphy. You can find me on Twitter at OwenM1990.
I'm Fergal O'Connor. You can still find me on Twitter at InterSpammer.
Bye now.